What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. And if you are watching on the YouTube, you will notice there's a certain change. And that's right. I've been building this YouTube studio at home. And if you are listening and you can't see this at the moment, I would encourage you to go over to the YouTube channel Behind the Facade and just have a look and see. Let me know what you think of the new YouTube studio. So guys, this has been a busy couple of weeks and I'm actually heading away. I'm off to Spain this week. I'm going down to visit my villa that I've owned since 2008. Bought it at the exact right time, as you can imagine. And I am going down to take the keys back from the tenant who has been living in it for the past 5 years. So the next episode I do is going to be from Spain, and I'm hoping that it'll be an episode that you'll find interesting to listen from down there. So this week, what are we talking about? Well, what I did this week is I've brought back a guest of mine, a previous guest, I guess I should say, and his name is Jason Graystone. Now, if you go way back to the very beginning, the first year of making this podcast, I think it was around about episode 34 or 38 or something like that. But I had Jason on and we talked about his business that he's gone and created, and what he does, or what he was doing primarily at the time, was he was a trader. So, you know, those of you who understand what I mean by kind of day trading, you see these guys sitting in front of a big bank of monitors, and there may be 4 or 6 monitors, and they're kind of like all surrounding them with all of these numbers and everything like that. And they buy and they sell shares, commodities, crypto, whether it's currencies, fiat currencies, the whole lot. And you buy and you sell. And then he also did, another type of trading in the evenings and stuff like that. And it was totally different from what I do. I mean, real estate investing and trading on the stock market and stuff like that. It's quite a different set of skills. And so we just had that conversation, and it's interesting to go, 4 years later, here we are having another conversation. And what I think is really interesting about this is that it doesn't really matter what you're investing in. Ultimately, it all boils down to usually a very similar set of desires or motivation behind it. And in the case of Jason and I, as we're going to discuss in this podcast today, we're talking about financial freedom and, the ability to go and make enough money that you're able to have freedom of mobility, mental freedom and financial freedom. And so we're going to get into that today with Jason. Jason also has some really interesting insights on creating content. And he's going to tell I just found this absolutely fascinating. He creates a YouTube video that goes on to go viral and ends up making him a huge sum of money. And so it's going to be very interesting for a lot of you to hear just what's possible if you create content on the internet. We're also going to touch on the significance of discipline in trading. And I would say that this expands into general investment. I don't think any kind of financial investment, whether it's trading, whether it's real estate, I don't think it can be done in a haphazard kind of a way. You don't just kind of get a gut feeling and make an investment, although that's how it might feel if you've been lucky enough to be lucky. I remember going back to the early days when my career started off, and I made a couple of really smart moves that worked really well in my favor. And all of a sudden you start to sort of mistake that for genius, and you start thinking, yeah, I've got this like amazing ability to just whatever I touch turns to gold. And that can be a really hard lesson eventually, because it does catch up with you. And so what we're going to talk about today with Jason is just that ability to analyze and go deep into analysis and just understand like what exactly is happening in the market. Have you researched it enough to actually kind of see the patterns and the trends? And it's only when you have done that kind of homework that you should really be making large-scale investments. So guys, without further ado, my conversation with Jason Graystone. Jason Graystone, welcome to the podcast.
Mate, thanks for having me. It's great to be here again.
Yeah, I should say welcome back to the podcast, because you are back here. It's been quite a few years now. I can remember you coming on the podcast when we were probably in our first 12 months. So the podcast just turned 5 in April. So
Wow.
It's 5 years.
It goes so quick.
Yeah, it does. It goes by way too quick, you know. So Jason, for those people that were not listeners at the time and so have never heard your interview, I must go and find out which podcast episode that is, and I'll put a link down below. But
and the one you was on mine as well, so
that's right. Actually, we should do a cross promote, as we say in the business. So Jason, for the people who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about what you do. And
Sure. So I'm primarily an investor. I've been investing since I was 22 years old, and I've found myself in a position at about 28, 29 years old, where my returns from my investments were kind of covering my lifestyle costs. And after trying everything in the book, I eventually became financially independent from my investing, trading, everything I was trying out and doing at the time. And I lived a very kind of, I sat at home, ate a lot, became a great guitarist, and after a few years of doing that, it was kind of, you kind of lack a little bit of fulfillment, you know. All your friends are at work, your family, your wife's getting out the house because she's under your feet, or you're under her feet, and the kids are at school. And to be honest, I was only 30 years old, and I thought, I need to do something, you know. I need to get back out there and do something. So the beauty, I guess, of being in that position is you approach business very differently. It's like, I don't need money. And I ask business owners this all the time. Imagine what your business would look like if you didn't need money. You know, if you won the lottery and you just didn't need money. What products would you create? Who would you put up with? You know, what would you love to sell? You know, and I decided to just start kind of sharing the realities of what I was doing, and it was all free. You know, I was putting it out there, and I was like, this is what I'm doing. Come and watch me invest. Come and watch me trade. And it was kind of like a little community we were building, and it just evolved from there. Yeah, we ran it on a platform called Omnovia. It was back then. It was like 2015 or 2016.
So about 10 years back, right?
About 10 years back, and we just started sharing it on this platform called Omnovia, which was, I guess, like a webinar type thing. And we just built a phenomenal little group. Obviously, there's nothing bad anyone can say, or no negative reviews, because it's all real. It's like that you're watching me. You know, this is my account, my stuff, and I fell in love with this idea that you could share everything so transparently and almost give a breath of fresh air to everyone. And it was like that attracted more people, and I love that, and that's very much how I've gone about my business since that day. It was like, right, how can I give everything to people so that they're equipped with the right information? I'm obviously not trying to hold anything back, because I don't need to dupe you into making a sale or anything like that. I don't really care, you know, if you buy anything or not. In fact, I was kind of forced into creating products because it was an efficient way of serving lots of people who were demanding stuff from me. I was like, can you help this, can you do this? So it kind of evolved from that, and since then it's been phenomenal. I mean, what a world that we live in, where you can just share information on these platforms and build global audience and great communities, and it's just such a fantastic time to be alive. You know, it really is.
It's incredible. I was saying this to some of the guys in my own mastermind the other day. I was telling them just how much friction there was starting a business back in the day, because I can remember back in, the year was 1997 or 1998, something like that, and I went and I rented an office in Dublin. And first of all, you have to go through this big rigmarole where you have to sign a lease and all this kind of stuff, and then got my office. No phone line in the office. And so I remember sitting down on this carpet. There was no desks or chairs or anything. And I was sitting on the carpet, and I was like, how am I going to get a phone line in here? And I had my mobile. I rang up and I said, like, mobile phones were very expensive to use. So you didn't want to use your mobile to be calling people. You wanted a phone line. And I can remember them saying it was like 8 to 12 weeks to get a phone line in. And I was like, what am I going to do for 8 to 12 weeks? You know, and like, you know, because when you used a mobile, it gave people the impression that you were kind of a fly-by-night. It was like you were working out of the back of your car rather than having an address. So anyway, fast forward to today. And I mean, if you remember back in those days, you had to go and put an ad in the back of a newspaper if you wanted to go and like advertise your products or something like that. Now it's just switch on the phone and here we are going live.
Yeah, the Thompson Local. We had something called the Thompson Local where you could just place adverts or... And I was the same. I remember starting my first business in my shed in my garden, and the first priority was to get a phone and a fax line out to the shed so that I had a fax, right? So that I looked like we had this office that was equipped to deal with other corporates and other businesses. And yeah, that was a priority back then. Again, it was like 4-6 weeks for an installation, and oh man, it was crazy how long things took. But I'm glad that I kind of went through that. I'm glad that I grew up in that time for sure, because
I think the fact that we did means that you really see the opportunity today.
Exactly.
And, I mean, I know young people, like I read these sort of stories and I listen to people on social media, you know, in their 20s and they're making it big so quickly, and it's because they have this inherent skill at selling and communicating and stuff like that. A lot of people suffer from imposter syndrome, I guess would be the word, and so they find it very hard to kind of turn on the camera and start speaking to it. But it's been a total game changer for both of us. But you've had a really big experience. We were just talking offline there about your YouTube experience where it just went, well, why don't you just tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that will just give people a real understanding of how much opportunity exists inside of social media.
Yeah. Okay. So just before I tell the story, I guess what I just said is I've made my whole life from investing. Okay. So from 21 years old, I've pretty much built a life and provided for a family on my ability to take good bets and make good decisions and analyze and spot great opportunities. And that's really what I'm good at. I'm really good at investing in certain things that I know that I'm right more than I'm wrong. And when I'm right, I win more than I lose when I'm wrong. And that's kind of been my whole life. And across that journey, I've invested in everything. I've done everything from property, real estate investment trusts, index funds, large cap stocks, medium cap stocks, tech startups, angel investments, everything. Futures, crypto, Forex, Bitcoin, everything, right? I've tried my hand at everything. There's not a lot. I was even going into options trading. I was even going into online poker at one point. Wow. And so there's not really a lot that I haven't kind of tried my hand at. But last year was the first year that YouTube had surpassed every investment that I'd ever made, you know, in terms of return. And that point was when I invested 200 grand into a YouTube studio, you know, and to watch an investor do that, I think that should, you know, perk the ears up of people and go, oh, okay, YouTube is a serious game because you've done all this. You know, the property development we had in Portugal was 53 million euros. That was the value of that, right? So to now watch me go all into YouTube, that people should be thinking, right, okay, I need to get serious about this YouTube thing. Yeah. I need to, right. So first of all, I started running YouTube about 10 years ago. So it was December 15. My first videos took me about 4 hours to record this 4-minute video. It was absolutely shocking. I've never spoke to camera. I'd never, you know, I was sweating under my armpits. It was the most unnatural thing I'd ever done in my life. And you can go and watch a record. I put that out like publicly, that recording behind the scenes. And I
think I found it here. It's you sitting in an armchair.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And it's and you're like, and you're really clearly, you were very
uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
Very, very, very uncomfortable. And that video goes out, and the thumbnail, I'm smiling, and it all looks like I'm a natural because of all the chops and edits and stuff like that, right? But it was awful. And the next day, I got a little bit better, and the next day, I got a little bit better. Anyway, 9 years go by, and I'm an analyst, right? So I decided to start analyzing and being really critical about analyzing the data behind YouTube and the analytics. And I'm like, well, this is fucking obvious. You know, it's so obvious to me. And I guess where I have an advantage is I am an analyst. I'm a trader, I'm an investor, whereas most YouTubers aren't. You know, they're looking at analytics and they're trying to kind of, oh yeah, let's do the algorithm thing. I just looked at it, I saw patterns and I was just like, right, this is obvious. You know, let's not do any more of that. Let's not do any more of that. Let's do more of these and let's see how we go. Anyway, we did this video and it hit about 10,000 views within 3 months, right? Which wasn't great, to be honest. At that time, it took me 8 years to get to 50,000 subscribers.
Right.
And anyway, 3 months later, I'm sitting in a pool in Dubai with a couple of friends and my phone starts going off, 1,000 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers. I'm thinking, what's going on? And the next day I had another 20,000 subscribers. And I was like, this is crazy, right? Something's happening. And it transpires that the content was such a good fit for what YouTube consider the perfect creator content that they'd gained so much confidence in me over those 3 months. They just were promoting it like mad. And that video to this day has gotten us over 700 subscribers per day. So it took us 8 months to go to 50,000 subscribers and then 1 year to go to 500,000. Jeez. And I'm confident that if you could just do the same thing from day one, you'll have great results. You'll have much better results. Your channel will take off. So just a bit of a story behind the commercial aspect of that video. Within 3 months, we had of it triggering the algorithm. So it went live in January, did about 10,000 views to May, so 5 months, nothing really happened. And then when it triggered, from that point on, 3 months later, it had 1.6 million views, and we had 0.04% of those people that watched that video bought this £297 upsell at the end. And it was a real kind of, look, you don't need anything now, but here's another thing if you want it kind of thing, and they spent 2.5 hours with me on that video. They really didn't need me anymore, but it was all, of course, we all pay for implementation, right? So it was just like, let's just have the hand holding thing. And the 300 quid thing was like a 30-day challenge where you get a video a day, you join a group, you do your homework, and you kind of feel like you're part of a community, which has been phenomenal, by the way. Anyway, 0.04% of the people that watched the video in those 3 months bought this thing, which was 5,550 people bought a 300 quid product. It was 1.6, 1.7 million straight into the account. And it was a real eye opener. It was a real eye opener. It was like, to see the Stripe, the Stripe daily payments and the like 650 grand going in every month. And it's like, what the flipping hell's going on? What is this?
Why didn't I do this years ago?
Yeah, right. So we saw that. Anyway, 10 months later, $12 million in revenue from that one funnel, one product, one video, one product, no sales team, nothing, no ads. We've never, ever placed an advert ever. And,
incredible, isn't it? And
it was just phenomenal to witness and really reassuring that there is so much potential with YouTube. So that's when we built this studio that I'm sitting in right now. And that's all we're going to be doing now. We're going to be doing long form videos, full end-to-end tutorials with tiny little call to actions at the end, and that's it.
I must go and upgrade my YouTube studio. It's pretty raw looking compared to
Mate, I honestly don't think it matters about the studio. For me, it's more for productivity and the speed at which we can get stuff done.
Yeah, reduce the friction. Yeah,
for sure. And there was kind of, because I've been at home for so long, there's a lot of blurred lines between my home and like doing this, and it's like I like to step out of my house and come into here, and then it's like quiet. This is all soundproofed, and it's just nice to be in something where I'm just like, right, when we switch this button on, it's go time, and then when we turn it off, I can go and spend time with the family. But my son's doing my editing and all my socials.
Oh, really?
So.
That's cool.
yeah.
Family affair now. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And tell us, in terms of when people hear you saying that you're an investor, like for a while, I guess the way you would have described yourself as a trader, where you're kind of buying and selling and playing the markets essentially.
Yeah.
And but like, we all know, I can remember an embarrassing story about myself and also about other people that I've heard that got it into their head that they're going to become a trader. And I remember it was back in 2006 or 2007. And I can remember I was already doing a lot of work in the real estate space. I had like millions invested all over the place. And I can remember a friend of mine had done really, really well he had been using CFDs, okay, and so margin trading, and he put in like maybe 50 grand into something and bought 500 grand's worth, and it popped 10%, and he explained it to me like, I've just made 50 grand on Ryanair or something like that. And I can remember when he said it to me going, how much? And I was thinking all of the leverage that I'm using for property and stuff, and this guy just did it like so quickly. So of course I thought I need to be in on this, so jumped in, threw 100 grand in, leveraged it up to $1 million, and I had similar success. Like it went ramping up really, really quickly. But I didn't have the discipline, and I guess that's the bit that you're going to tell us a little bit about, just discipline, because I can remember I started with 100 grand, and that's the stocks that I bought 2 stocks, and they shot up in value in about 6 months to 800,000. And I remember saying to myself, when it hits $1 million, I'll sell, and then I'm going to buy myself a 911 Porsche with the proceeds, and I'm going to put the rest in the bank. And did it hit $1 million? No, it just went into this kind of spiral downwards. And I can remember being stopped out when the guy rang me up and said, Gavin, you need to cover the margin. How much?
Margin call.
Margin call, and it was 80 grand that day, and it was my birthday. And I remember going, are you 80 grand? I have to write a check for 80 grand on my birthday. And the next day he rang me and said, Gavin, we need to do it again. And I said, how much this time? He says 70,000. And I thought to myself, the way things are, it's going to be like this like every day. I'm just going to keep losing. So I just said, close out the whole account, just close it down right now. And so he did. And so my experience, put in 100, ended up losing 150. The original 100 plus going negative 150. Yeah. So total loss of 250. When at one stage I was up 850. And this to me was trading, like, you know. And obviously it's that's the kind of,
I love that story.
Yeah, when people are looking in from the outside and they see, you know, you buying and, you know, blips on a chart and little kind of graphs and stuff. How long did it take you to figure this stuff out? Because I think a lot of people think it's just like you can start tomorrow. Yeah.
So trading was the last thing that I learned in terms of wealth creation vehicles, and it was the final piece in the puzzle for me. It was like I just needed to accelerate the overall returns of my portfolio to just cover enough to replace that final piece of my income. And today I still trade. You know, I trade every day, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are my main trading days, and I trade swing trade every night of the week. And what you just said there, discipline, I think you don't really have discipline unless you know what you're doing, do you? Because how can you have discipline in something that you just don't believe in? It's like you really have to believe in it. And I always say, like, you should never grow your money at a rate your mindset can't keep up with, because if you try to do that, what will happen is, if you get lucky or you start to do that, your mind will be the thing that gets rid of all that money quickly, right? It's like lottery winners. They get the win. And they blow it because they're like, I need to get rid of it. I need to still be accepted. I need to buy acceptance from my friends and family. And they're thinking of ways that they could get rid of it because they don't feel worthy of it. Whereas as a trader, you know, what you're really trying to do professionally is figure out how not to lose money and manage risk. And then as a byproduct of doing that, you end up making money. So it's like, how can I make good bets? How can I structure it in a way where I know exactly, you know, when I'm getting in, when I'm getting out, what my strike rate is, what the risk reward profile is, what my maximum allowable drawdown is. And when you have all that and you've got a system that you believe in because you've tested it across historical data and you've verified it and you've paper traded it going forward, there's not really a lot more that could give you any mental strength other than that. So now you're ready. And now you're like, well, okay, the market's dipping a little bit, but if I look historically, on average, you know, the most I've lost is 7 trades in a row, or the most it's dipped is 10%. So, we're fine. We've dipped 5%. Who cares? There's nothing to worry about, and most traders who go into trading don't do any of that work. They're just taking punts. And like you think you know what the market's going to do. It's like, I know when it gets to 1 million, it's really dangerous language to use. When it gets to 1 million, like as if it's going to go there, like you don't know, like there's no, the market just does not give a shit about your mortgage payments, man. It really doesn't. It's just got one job, and that's to take all the money out of your wallet. And your job as a trader is to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think most people shouldn't be traders. And if they do, you have to know what you're doing. You have to have the skill. And it's just like property. If you're So with investing, like there's types of investments that you can give money to people and let them do what they do, like an index fund or a managed fund or some kind of passive investment.
Fund of
fund. But if it's trading, if it's a speculation, like the higher the speculation is, the more you need to be in control of it. You need to be the expert. You can't just give someone money to trade. I don't believe that that's a very good strategy, because you will jeopardize it. You'll be asking, it's gone up. What's happening with my money? And you'll interfere. It's like property. If you're buy to let, that's a very passive strategy. But if you're flipping properties, you need to know where the best place to source the property, how to do it up and do it really lean, and know all the people to get it done quickly and cheaply, and where you're selling it onto after, and having buyers lined up after. That's a skill. That's something that you have a lot of knowledge on, that keeps you calm and able to do that. You're not worried about the fluctuations in the housing market, because you've got your plan. It's like, right, I know I've got this margin, and if you're just if you're taking a punt in the property market and trying, I'm going to go and do this buy flip thing, you're going to have the same experience. It's no different. It's like, well, you're lucky. You're lucky if you make a profit.
Yeah, what is it? I can remember there's a great scene in the original Wall Street movie with Gordon Gekko, and he's like, a fool and his money were lucky enough to get together in the first place. You know what I mean? It's like some people can be lucky and be in the right place at the right time, but if you're not careful, it will just strip it out. And that's the mindset is a huge piece of that. And actually, it's something I wanted to just go back on what you were saying about the fact that people, lottery winners and stuff like that. It's a huge amount of it is lifestyle, and I see it particularly in the younger guys, like the millennials or the Gen Zs. They're making money, they're doing really, really well, and they get their lifestyle into this sort of, they feel like they need to live a certain type of lifestyle. Yeah. And the problem is that you don't have overhead yet because you're so young. If you understand, like I have 5 kids, like the cost of educating 5 kids, putting them through university, all of that kind of stuff, like there's such an amount of overhead as you get older, that a lot of young people just don't get it. And you kind of think 10,000 a month, that's amazing, I'm doing brilliantly. That'll barely cover your costs in a couple of years, And so I think it's understanding that, first of all, that you've got to salt away, don't let your lifestyle get out of control. And the mindset piece is huge, because I think some people, they come into money, and like you said, they don't feel like they deserve it. Like this kind of subconsciously going on in their head, like, I'm not a rich person, like I was never supposed to get rich. And that mindset will get you to blow it. And the other thing that I've seen, and it's something that I'm working on, like in my own, from what I've gone through, the ups and downs in my career with the crash of 2008 and stuff, I recognize it in a lot of other people and clients that I've worked with and stuff, is that when you've been savagely burnt in a crash like 2008, it scars you, and it plants these ideas and notions in the back of your head that can be very self-limiting. Things like, I had my opportunity, I'll never be there, I'll never get there again. Do you know what I mean? That kind of, like, I was rich, I was living it big, and it's all in the past. And it's kind of like an athlete looking back on their career when they were in the Premiership or something, and now that's in the past. And all they've got looking forward is less, not something that's bigger and more exciting.
So interesting. I see something that I've worked on personally in my own life, and practiced religiously throughout my life is always just trying to see every event that takes place in your life as just an event. And it's not positive or negative. There are going to be equal upsides and equal downsides, and the kind of the best example that I can give on this that maybe a lot of listeners may relate to, or some of them might relate to, is you imagine you just come home one day and you find your partner cheated on you, or in bed with someone, right? And at that moment in time, you feel like that's the worst thing, you're the victim, and that's the worst thing that could ever happen. And you label them as the kind of enemy. And from that point on, you've got a bit of fear going out into the dating scene again. 'Cause it's like, you don't want that to happen again. And, you got trust issues and all this kind of thing. And it might take you, 20 years later, right? You're with someone else and you've got all these kids and you've got a great life. And if I was to ask you, was that the worst thing that ever happened to you, walking in on that, even though it seemed like it at the moment, you would probably say, no, it was the best thing that ever happened. It was the best thing because I've had this here, and I've got this life and that life. But imagine it didn't take you 20 years to see that. Imagine on that spot, you could go, what's the good in this? What is the lessons here? How much has this saved me in the long run? How much has this got? And I've really practiced that all my life, not just from bad events, but from good events, because I don't want to be too cocky either. I don't want to say, oh, now I'm owning it. Now I'm winning at life. And, I want to go, hang on a minute. Have I thought about am I missing everything here? And I want to stay as grounded as possible so that I don't get any mishaps or sideswiped, or I don't want to carry any memory baggage that will stop me from seeing new opportunities in the future. But also, I don't want to be so naive that I'm going to go and step out in the road and get run over, So it's really important to kind of see every event as an event. And yes, you're going to feel inspired, you're going to feel motivated, you're going to feel proud at points in your life, but you're usually proud because you can't see the downsides to what just happened. I saw a guy in Dubai. He was very cocky. He was living the life, earning lots of money. All these young girls approaching him, and his wife left him. So there's something waiting. There's a lesson in every. There's blessings in the lessons, as they say.
Yeah. Blessings in the lessons. It's interesting all that, all right. Yeah, because when I look at the crash that I went through, and I went through my own kind of dark period when it was really tough, but I can remember looking back now, like I've got this audience that are listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, that are following me on social media and stuff. I would have no reason to connect with all those people except that I went through the crash and that I have a story to tell. Whereas if I was saying, everything is just being amazing, I just keep on making more money, nobody wants to hear that shit. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, come on,
I know, and no one wants to be told what to do either. People just want someone who's relatable, understands that their pains and problems. I guess the challenge you've got is like, it's kind of like, unless you've been through it, you can't feel it. It's like trying to tell a kid not to touch the hot candle, right? Yeah. They're going to have to touch it eventually to actually believe that that fucking hurts, But yeah, you have to be relatable.
It's the thing. I think what makes a difference is because I've looked back and I've done a lot of introspection, and I also have a similar philosophy as you. I mean, what you were describing there a minute ago about events and stuff. It's basically stoicism and just being like stoic. And I love reading, Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor. He has this kind of wisdom that he used to put down, and here we are 2,000 years later, and it's still so relevant,
Timeless.
But and events and all of this kind of stuff, and so many people. It's when I look back at what I went through and the mistakes, like the stupid stuff that I did. If I had had a mentor that had been sort of saying, Gavin, what are you doing? Like that's a really risky investment. You shouldn't be doing that. Unless he had made it like really big and was giving me advice from somewhere like that where he had made it, and he had also been through the ups and downs. I'm not sure I would have listened to that person, because you've got your family, your mother would be like, oh, geez, are you sure you should be taking these gambles and stuff? And you'd be like, oh, Mom, you know, I know what I'm doing, this kind of thing, you know? So
absolutely.
I think the fact that people have lost money, gone through kind of ups and downs, it not just makes them relatable, but it also means that they've seen both sides. It's not just that they're preaching from having never achieved. It's like kind of like school teachers telling you how to run a business. And you're kind of like, well, hold on a second, like, how many businesses have you got? And so, you know,
yeah. That was the problem that I had at school, actually. It was like, well, I'm listening to people. This isn't what I want in life. You know, I don't want a job. And I guess unless you're learning from people who have walked the walk, that it's very difficult to actually get that congruency. You know, I love congruency. There's a lot of talk about authenticity online, but congruency to me is like, that is authenticity. It's like, are you believing, saying, doing what you know, what your persona says you're doing, and are you a living, breathing, walking, talking example of what you're actually preaching? And that's really important to me. You know, it really is important to me, because humans just can cut through all this BS. You know, they really can. And I just want to. One of the exercises I say to do people is, I say, imagine there was a camera on you, you know, 24/7, and it was going to be broadcast out on Facebook Live or Instagram Live, and it would all be in your house, you know.
Truman Show.
Like the Truman Show, right? Would you be happy for it to be broadcasted out? Because if you're not, and I'm not talking about like bedroom debauchery, but I'm talking about like what you're talking about, how you're speaking about people. You know, what are you saying behind closed doors? Is there something you've got a shame or a guilt about, or something you don't quite truly own and love about yourself? Or and if the answer's no, you're probably not authentic. You're probably hiding something, and you're not congruent. And the first step would be to deal with that, you know, and go and work on that. And that's when you get, in my opinion, that's when you get, you know, imposter syndrome and all that, because it's just your internal mechanism going, don't talk about that. You know, you don't know about that. You know, that's bullshit, you know. Yeah, stop
deluding yourself.
Yeah. And that's the thing with social media. Everyone has to feel like they have to say something profound all the time. You know, I'm not. I'm a very content person. I've got no goals now. You know, I just want to live every day like this, every day for the rest of my life. I don't have any aspirations whatsoever. And I think it's important to know where that milestone is in your life, because I might go again in a few years, and I might go, right, I'm going to go for that now. But but knowing that I was happy at this point, I've now arrived there, and that's such a great feeling. Whereas a lot of people I see, even in Dubai, or millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires, they're always sacrificing today's happiness for tomorrow's profit, and they don't know when they want to stop, because they don't know who they are. They don't actually know what makes them content or happy, so they just chase, and before you know it, they're like, their wives left them, their house, you know, their life's over. They got the kids hate them, and what's the point?
It's funny, actually. There's a page in this. I have this book called The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, I know the book. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's one page in it. I can't remember when it is, but it's basically that it's kind of realizing that there are things that you have in your life today that you would crave if you didn't have them, like family, kids, all that kind of stuff. If you didn't have any of that, you would absolutely crave it, and yet a lot of people just take it all for granted, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, and we see it all the time. I would rather just, you know, to me the goal is to have no goals, empty calendar, a bank account that allows you to do what you want every day, and that's pretty much, you know, how I want to live, you know.
So freedom of, let's get into this, because this is pointing us towards your new book that you're going to be talking about. Freedom of mobility or location, freedom, financial freedom, obviously having enough money whenever you need, and then freedom of time, so that you actually choose your diary, your schedule. Tell us about this.
Yeah. So for me, the time freedom is falls under the financial freedom. So the financial freedom is how much time you can buy into the future, should you wish to stop doing whatever you're doing and live the life that you want to live. And the idea is that the last piece is mental freedom. So the idea is that if you really know who you are and you are living congruently to who you truly are, and you're not trying to please and appease your mum and dad, and you're not doing a job that you're doing for someone else, and all of the time you truly know what you want in life, then you just need to figure out how to build a vocation or an income that allows you to remain inspired doing what you love, but being paid to cover the experiences and the lifestyle that you actually want, rather than keeping up with the Joneses and doing all that kind of stuff, right? So it's going to be different for everyone. Some people might want a Lamborghini. Some people don't need the Lamborghini. They just want it because, someone's got it on Instagram. So once you're who you really want to be and you can do what you want wherever you want, at that point, that's life. Like, you don't really need to stop. You're never going to want to retire. You certainly won't subordinate to this idea that at 65 you're going to just put your feet up. Like, you just won't have that, because that's not the position you're in at that point. Yeah. So the financial element is just being able to stop should you need to or should you wish to. So it's like, that is total freedom. That's like the complete well-rounded freedom where you're like, okay, well, I'm doing this, but if I want to slow down ever, if I haven't become injured or, God forbid, then I can stop. Yeah, I can stop if I want to. And those three freedoms. So the reason the mental freedom is so important is because I've met lots of people who are born into wealth, and they've got all the money to do whatever they want, wherever they want. So they have the mobility freedom, they have the money freedom, but they don't know who they are, and they're lost. They've got no purpose, no drive. They turn to drugs, and their life is depression. So the mental piece is the really important piece, because you build everything in your life around who you truly want to be. And we've got 80, 90 years to do that. It's a very little time in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. So yeah, to me, that's you need all three of those. If you're missing one, which most people are, some people are missing two, you're going to feel not free. And the great thing about all those three things is they're all measurable, and you've got strategies to work on all three of them, so that it's a scaling in process to becoming more free. It's not like you're either free or you're not. It's like you can feel more free as a result of working on those things.
And where would you start if you were going to do this exercise?
So figuring out who you are. I mean, here's a great example. It's like, if you go through your camera roll on your phone, there will be a theme over the years of things that you decide to take photos of, right? That's so it's like it might be the mountains, it might be animals, it might be your kids, it might be like whatever, but there'll be things that it'll be your physique, right? It'll be whatever.
I'd put on all that kind of stuff.
Right. So it'll be fitness, yeah. So there'll be a theme there, and that'll be things that no one has paid you to take that photo. That's something you've been inspired to take. Yeah, right. So you combine that with like questions like, if I was to ring up your friend and ask them what you would go to them for, like, who are they the reliable go-to person for X topic? What is that topic? Who do you ring that person for? What do you think of them most, in terms of how they can help you most? What would you do on Monday if you didn't need money? What would be the first thing you chose to do? What would you spend most of your disposable income on? What energizes you? All of these kind of questions, and the photo thing, there'll be a theme. And like with my wife, she's so obviously an animal person. Like she will pick up an ant or a worm in the road and put it out in the hedge to stop it getting run. Like, she is and it's so obvious to everyone. It's like, if anyone ever, what should I do? You should work with animals. Like, there's no hesitation. And everyone's got that thing. They just don't take the time to kind of understand what it is. Yeah. And then the next step is like, well, how can I time study how I spend my time right now, and then do more of that, and less of the things that don't inspire me. And as soon as you start to prioritize doing that, you start to get motivation, you start to get inspiration to do it, rather than see it as this big kind of overwhelming thing. And the good news is everything these days is monetizable. So you can make money doing anything that you love. You really can. Like, you just have to know how to do it. And obviously we could talk for weeks on this topic and how to do it, but that's the kind of first steps. It's like knowing who you are, and then figuring out how to serve people with that, because you will feel like you'll be 10 steps ahead of anyone else who's trying to copy it or do it as a chore or a job. You know, this is my thing. Yeah. Look at all the fakes of me, right? There's loads of fake accounts of me. They're always going to be 10 steps behind because they have to wake up and copy. Whereas I'm like, I'm waking up energized to talk about this stuff. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm not getting burnt out.
I can remember when we spoke 4 years ago, whenever it was, and you had all of this problems with guys creating like fake impersonation and stuff. I have that problem now.
Yeah, right.
TikTok, my God, there's this guy. He actually has more followers than me. They must have bought followers. And I was just like, this guy looks legit because he has more followers than me now, and so it's frustrating. So anyway, I put in a complaint there to try to get them taken down.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. TikTok are pretty bad at all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So Jason, tell us just about your book then. What's the promise of the book, and is it out there now, or is it being launched?
Yeah, so the launch date is the 24th of July, and if you're listening to this after that date, then go grab a copy. If you're listening before this date, make sure you grab a copy on the 24th. That'd be awesome, because we're going to try and get that thing ranked as highly as possible. But the book is the concept of the book is always free, and what always free means, and the strategies to get there. And the best way that I can describe it is, you imagine when you were 7 years old. Yeah, what was you doing at 7? You was probably having an ice cream, kicking a ball around, going on the BMX and skateboard or whatever. Right? You had no care. You had all the freedom in the world, right? And yet when your parents used to call you in at night, it's like, come on, you got to come in now, have your dinner, go to bed, or get ready for school, whatever. You used to think, oh man, when I'm an adult, I'll do whatever the flip I want. I'll have all the freedom, no one will tell me what to do. And the sad thing is, you watch adults become adults and they become less free and further away from who they were at that 7-year-old, inspired kid.
Yeah.
And
that resonates so much.
Right. And there's a lot to be said, because when I was at Disney in 2012, we were in Orlando, and there was this guy who was working at the ticket office. He was about 80 years old, and he said, he stamped our tickets and he went, go be a kid again. And I just thought, that is all we want. We just want the freedom we had as kids. There's something very innocent, very unjudging, and we were free, complete freedom. So the concept of always free is being free in mind, movement, and money, and how to achieve that. So throughout the book, you will learn everything from mental freedom to mobility freedom to financial freedom, and all the strategies you need to get there.
Sounds great, Jason. I'll put links and stuff in the show notes. Basically try to buy it on the 24th or before the 24th, and it kind of...
if this podcast goes out before, wait till the 24th, okay. and then go to Amazon. If I can share like a waitlist link with you, which
that'd be great.
I don't know if this is going out before or after, but on the day it'd be amazing.
Yeah. No, we'll put this out. Today's the 7th. We'll put this out on the 14th, so it'll be 10 days before.
Amazing. Okay, great stuff.
So Jason, apart from that, I mean, I'm conscious of time. What are you excited about at the moment? Like, what projects are you working on that keep you really motivated?
Yeah, I'm excited on the book, and obviously that's going to be a great project for me, because it is a way that I can potentially reach more people with what I believe to be a truly a very, very important message of freedom and contentment in a world addicted to striving and all that kind of stuff.
Hustle.
Hustle and I think we need a little bit of a reset on that, because it's causing a lot of mental health problems and all that. So that's a great project for me. I've just been invited to Necker Island with Richard Branson. So
no way. Is that something that you get invited to? Is it?
Yeah. Well, you have to kind of be invited by Richard's nephew in some way, so you have to be connected or know someone. And the person that knew Richard's nephew was asked to bring his top entrepreneur friends, and I was invited as one of the handful of people. So really, really excited for that, because the opportunities that might come from that, and obviously that's for a great cause as well. So I'm just excited for 2026 and to see where this book journey takes me and all of that kind of stuff with the message of always free, and just keep sharing and giving content and helping people. That's really it.
Well, Jason, let's finish off with a final question. And I probably asked you this in the first time you were here, but we'll ask it again. What advice, now that knowing what you know, would you give yourself as a young man?
What advice would I give myself as a young man? So it would be to not give a crap about what anyone thinks, and just do whatever learn how to question everything and synthesize paradoxes of information and align them with who you want to be. So Joe might tell you A and Dave might tell you B. How do you take a pinch of salt of both of those and say, well, this is what I want, and I'll take those pieces and leave the rest, and then keep on your path rather than jumping onto other people's journeys and living in expectation and all that kind of stuff. I'll just share a quick story. When I was learning to drive, I asked my stepdad, should I learn in a manual or an automatic? And he was like, learn in a manual, because then you can drive both. And that seemed to make logical sense for me. I've never liked driving, but I learned in a manual. It took me twice as long to learn because it was more complicated. It cost me more money in lessons because it took me twice as long. And since I passed my test, I've driven an automatic car, and now all cars are going automatic. So it's like, had I just thought, do you know what? I don't want to learn in a manual. I don't really like driving, and I just want the easiest thing. I would have been a little bit less resentful, right? Now that's one tiny little jovial example, but imagine that on a mass scale. We do that every day. We make 35,000 decisions a year or something, or a day, or something crazy. And every decision we're making, it's like based on what we think is the best way. And most of the best way, we look to other people to guide us, and it's the wrong people.
So true. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Like there's a kind of a societal expectations on how you should even answer a question. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you think about the Miss World contest, like what's the answer they all give? It's like, world peace.
World peace.
No. Okay. That's a unique
I know. And the problem is when you've got to actually chase that and you're not truly inspired by it, that's when you get burnout. Yeah. It's like, this is hard. Yeah.
All right, Jason, listen, wishing you the best of luck with your book launch.
Thank you, mate.
We'll do our best, and the audience here will definitely jump on that book, because I think it very much aligns with the philosophy that I believe in and that I promote as well. So good luck with that, mate. Jason.
Thank you very much. Cheers for having us on. It's always a pleasure.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jason there. And what I'm going to do, this is a new thing that I'm introducing, is I'm going to get into the takeaways and just a little bit of a reminder of the conversation that we've had today and just some of the takeaways from it. And the first takeaway, I guess, is that, creating content on platforms like YouTube can lead to unexpected success. And I have to say, I have found that in the form of Instagram and TikTok. If you have been following me on either of those platforms in the last while, you may have noticed I did a video just in the last week or two, and it was me wearing a green t-shirt talking about the rent pressure zone, the changes and the reforms, and the fact that this new 6-year rule is coming in on the 1st of March next year. That post has gone absolutely viral. And I've had over 2 million views on that post when you combine the count from TikTok and the count from Instagram. It's led to over 5,000 new followers across those two platforms, and over 4,000 comments from the people viewing it and stuff. So it can just show you how it can blow up unexpectedly. Like, I did not think that was any different to my usual content. Another takeaway from the conversation was that authenticity in business is crucial for building trust and connection with others. So if you're in the space that I'm in, where you're trying to help people, educate people, mentor and coach people, then authenticity is super important, because if you come across as a bit of a bullshitter, if you're a person who, puts out this image of Mr. Success, and you don't tell the kind of the war stories that actually happen behind the scenes. So you're a bit of a fraud, and that comes across. I think people do recognize that. Financial freedom allows for a more fulfilling life without the pressure of money. I mean, that's kind of a bit obvious as a takeaway, but I think what I liked about the conversation with Jason, it's trying to understand what it is you truly want, as opposed to chasing after what you think you want. And the conversation when we went and talked about that childlike kind of playfulness that we all had as kids, when your parents would say, come on in, and you'd be like, I can't wait till I'm in control of my own time. And those days, like, how many people can remember that? I do personally. And you kind of wonder, like, it's a bit different when you are an adult, but that's because you don't have the freedom that you want. And so have a think about that, I think. Discipline in trading is essential for long-term success. Goes without saying. Understanding your true self is the key to achieving freedom in life. That's another one of the things that we talked about there today. And the journey of personal growth often involves overcoming past traumas. And that is certainly the case. And I mean, in my case, the 2008 crash and the unraveling of my life at the time with, divorce and financial hardship and losing the family home and all of that kind of stuff, like very, very difficult. But it's in kind of going back over that and trying to kind of understand what are the lessons from it. There's huge growth in that. And so if you have suffered any kind of failure, then I think it's worth your while just reflecting on that and just deciding whether or not it's premature of yourself to write yourself off, or whether you think you should just have a second look and maybe give yourself a second chance. Investing in yourself and your passions can lead to financial success, and always seek to learn and adapt in an ever-changing landscape of business. I think that's particularly true today with the artificial intelligence coming on stream and things like that. So we have to pay very close attention to the changes that are coming. And so guys, those are the takeaways from today's conversation. Let me know if you thought it was good, how you enjoyed it. And don't forget, Jason's book is coming out. And so if you're interested in it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find it online now and put some links down below so we can actually support Jason in his launch, which is this week as I publish this episode. So guys, take care of yourself. I'll see you from Spain next week.